Hi, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone could hear me fine. All right, so our topic today will be focusing on the PSTL tool functionality. Before you run any PSTL tool function, it is recommended that you make a backup of your databases that would be affected in using the tool. And it's also important that when you make these backups, you do it in SQL, right? Now, many of the tools, when you run them, it would prompt users to back up your information before it allows you to execute the command. So you would see that once you are running the PSTL tool, is going to ensure that you have backed up. It's just going to give you a reminder. You can continue without performing a backup, but like I said, it is recommended in case anything has gone wrong with regards to using the tool, because there isn't an undo function with this PSTL tool. So most of the functionality, you are going to have to be logged in as SA to perform. Because of the type of data manipulation that's going to occur within the system. Now, once you have installed the PSTL tool, you would have the option PSTL tool main setup, which is going to bring up this PSTL tool library. Right, so we have many functions here that's available to us. Some of the functions that we would go through. Firstly, we can check on the doc date verify functionality. And basically what this functionality does when activated, it allows you to check any document date that has a valid fiscal period in the system, and make sure that you're entering either valid fiscal period and not entering one that is closed. So for example, seeing that I already have this functionality selected, you just need to select it and cancel out. And under your sales transactions, transaction entry window, say for example, I was to enter 2029, it's going to prompt me that a fiscal period for this date has not been set up. And it's not going to allow me to continue until a fiscal period that's valid has been entered. Right? So this allows you to make restrictions, because there may be times where users may be entering a date and a mistake may be entered, and you have that user entry error. And if it is you don't want that to occur, you can enable that functionality. So only valid fiscal periods are entered, and it's not posted against invalid document dates within the system. So that is one of the functionality of the PSTL tool. Another functionality is our customer lookup, customer item lookup. So under our sales, we have various modifiers. Under payroll, we have various modifiers as well. Also inventory, financial, purchasing. But the one that we want to look up first is the customer modifier. All right, so this basically allows you to choose a customer number because within the system, you can't modify a customer number. So here you can choose a customer number, say Aaron's Fits, and say I wanted to have a test. And I can convert that customer number. It's going to ask me before I run this process that I would need to make a backup of this, make a SQL Server backup of my data. I'm going to click continue. All right, customer name modifier is finished. It's going to allow me to print a screen. And here you can see that my customer number, Aaron Fitz, is now a test. So under sales, customer, okay, let's try that again. All right, so the name is a test. Maybe I didn't check. Let's make sure. Okay, so yes. So we have changed our customer name for our customer ID to a test. Another area, for example, if it is we needed to check whether a customer has previous orders, so you want to check the customer historical information, you can do so with our item lookup. Now, under my sales transaction entry screen, if I am a person who is taking a customer order, I could start setting up the customer. All right, so for Aaron Fitz, which is my customer, in the historical lookup window, it's telling me that I must activate the customer item lookup in the back office service tools before I can use it within the system. So here we're going to activate it. So we're going into the PSTL tool. And once you have selected the customer lookup, item lookup option, there's no save, so you just need to X out. Xing out of this window would now enable the customer item lookup. Now there's one more step that needs to be taken before you can use the history function. You must build the existing history tables under the sales processing setup window. So under sales order processing, you go to additional. Now here, this tool modifies existing features within Microsoft Dynamics GP. You can activate this by clicking additional and create additional lookup data. So this is going to build any initial data from your existing history table. And once you have done that, depending on how much information you have in the system, this process could take some time, right? And this type of manipulation does require SA to do any sort of initial data creation. Once this is completed, we can now go back to our sales transaction entry window where we have our order. We could now go to our historical lookup, and here we are able to see the historical information for our customer Aaron Fitz. Right? So this lookup window gives you the SOP numbers, the item descriptions, the quantity that was invoiced, the document date, and the unit price. And it does have a drilled in feature where you can select the particular item and then select on the SOP number, and you basically get an item historical data entry screen which appears for your customers. So you do have that functionality at hand if it is you are interested in seeing historical orders for a particular customer within the system. So another functionality, and it depends on what version of GP you have. In the newer versions of GP, Microsoft Dynamics GP has the functionality incorporated within the utilities section. And if you have older versions, you're going to find it within the PSTL tool. So because I'm running GP 2018 R2, my functionality is incorporated within the utilities section pane. And I have the ability to combine customers. So you may, for some reason, a customer may be acquired by another company, or you may have a name change, and for that reason, you can combine a customer and you can use it under the utilities section here. And that's basically what I showed earlier. So this is just another way to access it. And you also have the same functionality for vendors. Under the utilities section, you can also combine vendors. So by selecting on the vendor combiner, you can even modify an existing vendor within the system. All right, so you can combine a particular vendor by selecting one vendor. And before I do this, I would like to show you guys, for example, with the customer combiner, if we were to go to purchasing, inquiry and transaction by vendor. And say, for example, our vendor West currently has 2 transactions, and our vendor West Junction currently has 3 payment numbers. So what we are going to do, we're going to join West onto West Junction. And there, by doing this, is going to have some reporting implications, just that you're not going to have any historical data on the West anymore. All the information is now going to be on the West Junction by combining those. So if you're looking for your previous vendor West, you are no longer going to see that there. So let's do the combiner. For sales. And I would like to do okay, so currently you have the modifier, but I want to use the combiner. So with the newer versions, like I said, you're going to have it under the utilities. So let's try the combiner. I'm going to combine my West information okay, so I don't have West. Let me see West Central. Let's see how much info that has in it. Okay, wow. Okay, so you can combine your West Central information, and then you can combine with another customer. West Side 001, and then you click process. And here it's going to show that it's combining these 2 destinations. Same goes for purchasing. And we're going to combine it with West Junction. And bear in mind, let's just go back so we can see that West currently has 2 transactions in there, and West Junction currently has 3, and we're going to combine them. All right, so let's go back. right? So we no longer have our West vendor. However, we should see 6 transactions now under West Junction. Okay, 5, sorry, because it was 2 and then 3 from the West Junction. So it has brought over the information, that data from West. West no longer exists, and it has joined it to, or combined it to West Junction 01. All right, so basically the combiners and the modifiers are pretty much the same. You can select whether it's a combiner or modifier option, select next, and you can enter your various options. The inventory site combiner, this basically allows you to combine site or location codes. You do have the option to import, so you don't actually have to do this one by one. You can generate a smart list, export your information to Excel, and you can add information to that Excel spreadsheet, import it, validate it, and then convert it. So it does make things a little much easier for the end user, right? And if it is just a couple that you need to do, well, then you can go ahead and do this option one by one. We also have the toolkit functionality. And this toolkit functionality allows you to rebuild tables. So if for any reason you need to recreate any SQL objects or rebuild indexes, recreate tables, you are able to do that here. This also requires essay functionality because it is manipulating the data within the system. So a regular user would not have access to this. Another functionality is the account modifier combiner. So with the account modifier combiner, there may be instances where the company may be growing and may want to add an additional segment. And with these segments, it allows you to slice and dice in a different way. So say, for example, you may want to add a segment for departments. You do have the availability of doing that here. And in the same way as well, you can export your accounts from SmartList. You can add new ones, and then you can import it back as well and then convert, or you can choose a particular range of accounts that you want to convert to the new segmented account, and you can make that conversion within the system. All right. The update user date functionality, it allows you to update your user dates within the system. The 1099 modifier allows you to update those 1099 values within the system as well, which is a nice functionality that you can use when using the PSTL tool. All right, so just note that many of these functionalities would require essay. For any reason that you need to gather more information on what any of these functionalities currently do, you can reach out to us further. I was able to give you some bit of insight into the PSTL tool functionality. They have probably roughly about 30 plus modifiers that you can do within the system, right? We went through a couple of them. We went through modifying the doc dates, the customer item lookup windows, the inventory site combiner, vendor, and customer modifier. We introduced how you can modify accounts in the system, and if you need to rebuild any tables within SQL as well. All right. So if for any reason you are interested in using any of these functionalities, you guys can let us know. All right, there would be a part 2 to the PSTL tool if you guys would like a more in-depth presentation, but this session is an overview of the PSTL tool functionality. For those of you who are unaware how to install the PSTL tool functionality, it is installed in your control panel features for Microsoft Dynamics GP. Under the add and remove functions, you do have the PSTL tool function. So once you have installed the PSTL tool function, you can click next. It will install the services and it is going to be available for you guys to use. Do we have any questions? And like I said, if you do require a further in-depth on the functionality, we can provide that to you guys as well. All right. Seeing that we don't have any questions, we would wrap up here today. And I really hope that we hear from you guys in the event that you are interested in utilizing anything that was shown here today or anything that's being shown on the screen currently, and we can further deep dive into that. Thank you guys for your time.